Okay, my outstanding friends, another shocker du jour. Now, I post quite a bit, as I'm sure you know if you've been following me. However, I have been doing so much with this research, I just let my house turn into ruin. I mean, literally. So I've been working on it. I did a thing about bragging about how I did my deck. Well, when I saw the deck, and then everything else is falling apart too. So I'm working on everything. I mean, the toilet, the doors, garage doors are falling apart, windows, this, that. It's a nightmare. So I will probably do a video showing that at some point, what I did, because I am going to be curtailing my videos a little bit. However, in the midst of all this thinking, I started thinking about purgatory. And if I claim, my feeling is the only reason we're here is to learn to refine ourselves from the things that, like I lacked compassion. It's just a fact. I lacked compassion. I had no compassion. It was all about me. And I just thought that's the way it was. But that's not evolution. That's survival of the more selfish. Basically, it is, and a more brutal as well. Now, I wasn't brutal, more or less. I was all for myself. I'm not going to do a lot of confessions here because it wouldn't take much too long. However, once you realize, you better damn well do what you're supposed to do from then on, because this is a learning experience that you're supposed to do. Original sin, it's just that everybody has it. You can't get away from it. You're programmed to be lustful and to want to survive, which means you want to take over. Now, how far do you go with that? Because that's when free will comes in. At a certain point, you have to also have compassion. You can't just say it's all about me and whoever cares about the rest of people. No. If you are ever put into a position of ruling, it's about them more than it is about you. As far as I'm concerned, that's the way God would see it. And then that would create an atmosphere of you call it whatever you want, righteousness, morality, compassion, caring. But anyway, I got to get back to work. I got so much to do. Oh my God. I mean, the wood rots out. Let me tell you something. Do not let the paint go bad. Scraping and sanding and anyway. All right, so here's some of the points. I want you to think about this. Original sin is just, that's in a program. That's your program to be sinful, but to understand at a certain point how to deal with that. Now, then you got prophecy. Is that real? Prophecy, and I'm having a discussion with a guy right now. Prophecy and free will, they're not really. Prophecy says this is what's going to happen. Well, how does that take away from my free will? I say no, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to do that. Who wins? That's something you want to think about. Now, heaven versus hell, obviously we all know there's supposed to be a good place and a really bad place. What happens to you in hell? What's it like? Where is it? And where's heaven? And what happens to you there? You think about just singing and all this stuff, and then hell just being tortured. Maybe it's a little more complicated. Now, there supposedly were a lot of gods, and I would have to assume there was one God Almighty, which was in charge, or he was the creator of the other gods, or this is going to be offensive to some people, but it's just what it is. I look for factual information, try to understand what we see. The things we're finding, if you've been paying attention, just typhon, the fish, all that stuff, and anyway. So I could see the dragon and the fish in the desert in Morocco, and the whole area. It's all written about, and they're there. Those bodies are there. Now, are they immortal? Were they immortal? Did they just leave that body there and go somewhere else with their immortality part? Or, I don't know. Now, that's something you want to think about. Where are the immortal gods? If they were here, and some of them were real bad and some of them were real good, where are they now? Because if they're immortal, they're somewhere. Now, if you're looking for truth, and that's what there's a Bible passage, and I don't necessarily say everything in the Bible is right, everything in the Bible is wrong. I look for bits and pieces that seem to fit. And if I had a God that was a really caring God, the first thing he would say is, I want truth. I want you to walk in truth. That's exactly what it says. I have no greater joy than to see my children walk in truth. Now, so what does truth mean? You just accept somebody telling you something? No. It means you search. And that's also something that Jesus said. He says, search until you find. When you find, you will be disturbed. And once you're disturbed and you really dig into it, you will marvel. And boy, I'll tell you, truer words never spoken. So if you don't dig into the rabbit holes, and you don't dig in, you don't do the research for yourself, don't listen to somebody else. Don't listen to me. Well, listen to me, but don't accept what I say unless you think it's right. If you think it's wrong, let's discuss it. If you want, I don't care. You can do whatever you want. But I'm just going to put it out there, and people do whatever they want. Hold on one second.
Do that or attempting to get there. It may not be that you're not firing off the ball hard, but hey, we have this.
Okay, whatever happened there? I leaned on the remote control. Everything is controlled now. Anyway, so here's the deal. I have been saying right along, we're here to learn. And if you learn the way you should learn, which really requires, just like Jesus says, seek, seek, seek. And he also said we are light. We're made of light. We're the children of light. We come from the light, the source where light came into being on its own accord. The thing turned back on. So, where is that? It appears to me that's stars, the sun. That's where light comes from on its own accord. So we are children of that light. So that's another thing to think about. These are deep, 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 deep rabbit holes. But if you don't search and you just accept something, you say, oh, I can't read that, don't. And I hear this all the time. Don't read that, no. Where does that leave you? That leaves you just bound up in somebody else's thoughts. To me, again, this would be offensive to some people. They have deep beliefs that can be shattered easily. But I go for what I'm seeing, and then I just say, think about it. What does it mean to you? So if we're here to learn, to me, that's purgatory. Every time you see purgatory, they're all screaming and crying and everything. No, not necessarily. On earth right now, there are the most screams and cries and desperation that you can even possibly imagine, because you're not in them, more than likely. If you are, you're probably not watching this. But to me, that's purgatory as conceptual purgatory. It's terrible. This is torture. Well, the other part of purgatory could be that you're here to learn and you're given gifts. You're given gifts. I have been given gifts my whole life. Did not deserve them. Not even the tiniest bit deserving. What did I do with them? Well, I just thought I was entitled, and I just accepted everything that was easy for me. I don't know, maybe life just was easy for me. And I had no compassion for anybody else. I just didn't. I'm sorry. I was not a compassionate person. I just never really, I was, let me put it this way. I didn't understand the suffering of other people. I didn't understand the suffering, but now I do. And I learned something. And I learned compassion. And that's a hard thing to deal with. Once you learn that, I think you're doing all right. Okay, I got to get back to work, but I'm going to tell you right now, purgatory, as far as I'm concerned, is here, right here on earth right now. It's viewed as a transitional state where souls undergo purification before you can get into heaven. Did you learn how to be compassionate? Did you learn how to, do all the things deal with the kind of stuff that emotions you're going to have? You're going to have emotions you have to deal with. And if you understand how to deal with them, I think that's what God's talking about, to have grace against the original sin. Because you're going to be compelled to be driven by hormones and everything else. But that has to be tempered with an understanding of what your obligations are and what your obligations are not. All right, some things you better do, or some things you better not do. So anyway, I'd like to have your ideas about it. And in these books here, like I'm showing you, I have nothing to do with the publishing the books. I didn't write them. They're based on the papers that I put out there. My good friend Paul Amatucci. It's Paul Amatucci. And it's on Amazon. They're not expensive. And he's got about, I don't know, half a dozen or so based on my papers. And he's gracious enough to put my name on them. But they're not my books, so don't. And they're very brief about my stuff. He's got a bunch of his own stuff in there. Nice guy. So if you want, you can look him up on Amazon. Because this stuff is basically not allowed. Now, who's not allowing it? That's the key. That's the key, my friends. Who is not allowing it? Like I said, if the gods are immortal, they're still around somewhere. They were directing humanity back then, putting up all kind of false witness about this and that. False prophets saying this is going to happen, that's going to happen. Well, maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But you can persuade people to do and believe just about anything, if they feel they're doing the right thing. And cleverly disguised, just about anything can be accepted as the right thing, as you see in society right now. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that, and think about the things that I just talked about. Maybe listen to this a couple of times, because these are the big questions in life as far as I'm concerned. You have your own way of thinking, I do too. But I've examined everybody else's way of thinking, pretty much. That's why I want to hear. Maybe I got something wrong, but so far I think I'm on the right track of understanding what everybody's feeling, and just looking at all these other things. I'm not saying I'm right about anything. I'm searching. So I'm going to leave it at that for right now. I got to get back to painting. I love you all. Check it out.